How's your hangover? Pretty rough? Well, you're in the right place. I'm Sarah. This is Historically Drinking. And this week we're going to be making 3 hangover cures from different eras while we talk about their history. How long have hangovers been around? Well, probably as long as humans have been drinking alcohol, which is about as long as humans have been humans. The first written reference that we have to a hangover is from the Odyssey, which historians date back to about 700 BCE. The first use of the words hair of the dog come from the Greek comedic playwright Antiphanes from around 400 BCE. And then, a few hundred years later, in 77 CE, Roman researcher and observer Pliny the Elder wrote about a hangover cure of raw eggs in wine. From then on, hangovers and their cures were referenced often in literature and in art. By the end of the 1800s, during the golden era of the cocktail, many creative concoctions that were designed were meant to be hair of the dog, including the one we're making today, which has an amazing name for a hangover cure: the Corpse Reviver. We're going to put our Corpse Reviver into a coupe glass. So I have one that's been sitting here chilling with ice. Remember, it's always better if you can chill your glass ahead of time. It's better to put a cocktail into a cold glass. Now I'm going to take my absinthe. I'm just going to put a touch of it in this glass. And I'm going to roll it around the glass. I want to really do a good job of coating the whole glass with absinthe. There we go. Now this absinthe is extra. You can just dump it out or Now that we've got our glass coated in absinthe, we're going to build the rest of our drink. We're going to mix it in a tin, but we need some fresh lemon juice for this. So I'm squeezing the lemon juice through a strainer. That's to get the pulp out of the juice so that when we go to clean the glass, when we're done drinking our cocktails, it's much easier to clean if you don't have to try and get all of those little bits of lemon off of it. A nice thing about our Corpse Reviver is that the build is super easy to remember. It's equal parts of each ingredient, so it's 3/4 of an ounce of each ingredient. Starting with our lemon juice, okay, and then 3/4 of an ounce of lillet. You can also use cocci Americano for this recipe. The original recipe calls for something named quina lillet, which is no longer available. And then we're going to do 3/4 of an ounce of Cointreau. And lastly, 3/4 of an ounce of gin. I'm using a London Dry gin, and a London Dry is great in this recipe. But I do suggest trying other gins. See what you prefer. Just put some ice in our shaker. Okay, and let's pour it into our glass. Oh my gosh, I just realized I left my glasses on. I'll take them off now. I'm a dork. Aha! But we have a cocktail. Let's try it. This is delicious. It's bright, refreshing. It's a good eye opener. All of the flavors of the ingredients really come together to create something that's its own, but you can still taste a touch of the orange, the juniper and the gin, the lillet, like all of it subtly sort of dances around in your mouth. It's a really fantastic cocktail. You don't need a garnish on this because the essential function of a garnish is to add some aroma to your cocktail, some aromatics. And that's what the absinthe did. That's why we rinsed the glass with absinthe. So now when you stick your nose in it, you smell absinthe. But since we also drink with our eyes, you might want to put a garnish on just to look nice. And if you're going to do that, then use a lemon peel. The scent of that will be nice and it'll look great on this drink. All right. Ooh. According to the classic cocktail compendium, the Savoy, 4 corpse revivers taken in quick succession will unrevive the corpse again. The Prohibition and post-Prohibition era saw new hair of the dog cocktails being developed. Among these were the iconic Mimosa and Bloody Mary, and the one that we're going to be making today, the Bullshot. We're going to construct our Bullshot in a mixing tin. The first thing that we need is some fresh cracked black pepper. Just 1 turn is plenty. If you don't have a pepper grinder, then just use a pinch of regular pepper. And then we're going to put in Tabasco. We'll do 4 dashes. And now we need beef broth. I'm using Pacific Foods. It's an organic type of beef broth. There's 2, 4. And some lemon juice. We're just putting a touch of lemon juice in here. Just 1/4 ounce. And lastly, our vodka. Now I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of the vodka. Okay, and some ice so we can shake it up. Smells good. I'm gonna put a bit of ice in this glass. The ideal glass for this is a goblet. This beautiful red wine glass is the closest I have, so that's what I'm using. Okay, I'm gonna garnish it with some orange peel. Get some of that in there. Okay, let's taste our Bullshot. That is interesting. It tastes like beef broth for sure. It's like tastes like exactly what it is. Spiked, spicy beef broth. It's the more I sit with it, the more I like it. Now, some people would drink these warm, which I think would be extra good for that hangover of yours. So there you go, the Bullshot. For a modern hair of the dog cocktail, all that you have to do is ask Google for hangover cures and all kinds of recently developed recipes will come up. I have one of my own that I think is rather brilliant, the Pedialyte Slushie. I am super excited to be sharing this modern hair of the dog hangover cure with you all. So to make this, we start with some Pedialyte. We're putting an ounce of this into our stirring glass. And then we're going to put in 1.5 ounces of Madeira. If you're not familiar with Madeira, you might be familiar with its very close relatives, sherry and port. You should be able to find Madeira at a spirit store or wine store that has a good selection. This is Rainwater Madeira made by Blandy's. This is it's a fairly dry for a Madeira. You can use a drier sherry as well if you can't get this. And you can definitely find a drier sherry at one of those nicer wine shops or spirit stores. But the world of Madeira and sherry and port is an amazing one to explore if you haven't. It's great. There's really great stuff there. Okay, now our final ingredient for this is science. We're putting in some citric acid solution. So I have this packet of citric acid, super not expensive, easy to get on the internet. And I mixed it using a gram scale, 1 part citric acid to 10 parts water. Now this is not a necessary ingredient for this cocktail. You can do just the Pedialyte and Madeira. This does add a little additional acidic note to it, which improves the cocktail. And the citric acid is fun to play with and stuff. So this is 1/8 teaspoon. We don't need much. Okay, now I'm not going to stir it a lot. I don't want to dilute this too much. There we go, so just a few stirs. Then I've had this glass over here chilling. Okay, now this is a slushie, so I'm going to fill the glass with crushed ice. Now I just took my regular ice cubes and put them in this heavy-duty canvas bag and smashed them. Okay, there we go. I'm going to garnish it with this vitamin B12 gummy. I can't take credit for the idea for this garnish. It was the idea of a food and beverage manager that I had the good fortune to work with when I was developing this drink. And he suggested this, and it's perfect. It's the perfect garnish. Oops. Well, when you serve or drink a drink that's on crushed ice, you want to use a straw. I left my straw in the kitchen, so we're just going to make do. But you will want a straw for this. It's so good. That is so delicious. Yeah, the ratio is perfect. You can taste the Pedialyte, you can taste the Madeira, like really playing with each other. It's got a sweetness to it, but it's a very light, pleasing sweetness that's balanced really well with the addition of the citric acid solution. So this, I think, is your perfect hair of the dog hangover cocktail. So that first literary hangover, the one that I mentioned from the Odyssey, it may have been the worst hangover ever. When the sailor Elpenor woke up super hungover on the roof of Circe's castle, he was in such a bad state that he fell right off the roof and died. May your hangover be milder than Elpenor's. Stay safe, and thank you for watching. Oh, and if you would like more booze-soaked history videos, hit the subscribe button below and the little notification bell afterwards. Okay, bye!